Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am very excited to have Mike Davis with us, and he is going to present top 10 tips for special needs financial planning. My name is Christy Moore, and I'm with the Exceptional Children's Assistance Center, and ECAC is very thankful for the relationship that we have with Mike to help us teach everybody about special needs financial planning. And it can be a complicated topic, but Mike does a great job breaking it down, like he said, into bite-sized chunks. Just a couple things real quick before we get started. We want you guys to have tons of questions. And we know as Mike goes, you will probably think of questions. We would love for you to put those in the Q&A section. It should be located in the bar that's either at the top or bottom of your screen. And not the chat, because things can get lost in the chat. If you put it in the Q&A, that's where we're going to go at the end. We're going to let Mike get through all of his content. At the end, we'll go to the Q&A and we will ask questions. But you're welcome to put questions in the Q&A as we go, as you think of them. This webinar is being recorded, and I will send a follow-up email this afternoon that will include a recording of this webinar, a PDF of Mike's slides. He has some handouts that he will talk about that I will also share in the follow-up email. And then there are a couple of other resources that I think would be good to share in a follow-up email as well. So we'll send all of that together. That will go out this afternoon. And then I will launch a very, very brief evaluation poll towards the end. I think it's like 4 multiple choice questions. We would really, really appreciate you taking just a couple of seconds and providing your feedback. And without any further ado, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Christy. Appreciate it. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Davis, and I'm a certified financial planner and a chartered special needs consultant with Legs Financial. And kind of talking about it can be a scary topic, and I look at it and consider it a financial junk drawer, right? So we have our junk drawer where we just throw whatever. That's kind of what we do with our finances and certainly with special needs topics. We have a tendency just to kind of put them away. I'll think about it tomorrow. I'll think about it tomorrow. So this is about kind of setting it up. So some things that you can do today and tomorrow in order to put yourself in a better position. So thank you, Christy, as well as the Exceptional Children's Assistance Center for hosting today's event. I do really appreciate that, and they do such a great job supporting all the families, particularly in this very murky time with everything's going on. Before we get into the actual topic of top 10, a little bit about myself. And really how I got into financial needs, special needs financial planning. And really I got into it by following my kids' footsteps. So I have 2 daughters, and a few years ago they volunteered for a Shine Theater Camp, which is for people with special needs. And it started out for special needs as well as their siblings, so they could do something together. It was a 2-week camp. It was held in Winston-Salem. And it was usually 3-4 hours a day. So every day my daughters would go over, volunteer, help out every way they can. And every day they came home so excited, just like talking nonstop about how much fun they had, just talking about the campers and just how interesting and fun it was. And so they have a number of shows on the weekend, always sold out after the 2 weeks. And so my wife and I attended, and we got a sense of, what they were able to experience. And and it was funny because they just got a text across is that they're talking about moving it to a different location that's bigger, that can hold more people. Just came through today as my daughters were talking on our family chat. And so it's kind of cool because it's permanently etched on their calendar to make sure that they're going to be part of that camp. It's had that impact on them. And it actually spurred my oldest daughter even more so. So she's really been very, very active in the special needs community. She's helped with Special Olympics. She's been part of adaptive physical education classes. And at her high school where she was going, they had an inclusive event like every Tuesday for socialization as well as kind of dancing, weightlifting for the special needs community. And just recently, she started a part-time job at college where she's part of a team of college students that help support a young woman with cerebral palsy. And she's going for biomedical engineering, and she's part of that is thinking how she can help the community of coming up with either research on stem cells or really kind of apparatuses that can assist people. So I saw this kind of through their eyes and just count what a great experience they had and how much fun they had. Um, but it doesn't. So I had a sense, but never really had a big part in the community. But I'm a tennis player. And I've played most of my life. I played in high school. I actually played in college. I taught professionally. I've coached high school. I'm still active in USTA for adult teams. It's actually where I met my spouse and a lot of my closest friends. And it was actually how I got myself personally involved in the special needs community. A few years ago, I was at a tournament and they had a social gathering on the one night, and they were talking about this program called Abilities Tennis. It's an organization dedicated to promoting fitness, fostering community, and championing inclusion for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And they use the adaptive sport of tennis to do that. So when they're talking about it, it sounded pretty interesting. So I reached out immediately, like the next day, to the executive director and they to learn more. And they said really the best way to learn more is to actually experience it directly. And they actually happened to have a tournament that weekend. It was in Winston-Salem, so I made my way over there, and it without a doubt was the best experience I've ever had on a tennis court. I continually witnessed something that was really rare on the tennis court, but it was really common at this tournament, and it was sportsmanship. And I looked at the way the tournament was organized, and the way the athletes competed. It was to me what the epitome of what sports should be. So both athletes on the court, they were competing. They wanted to win. They're working really hard, but they also saw the person on the other side, and that person would hit a good shot. They would comment on it. Oh, that was a great shot. It wasn't about them. It was about them being out there competing and having fun. And after the match, they shake hands, they leave the court, and the match is forgotten. They're talking about what are we doing for lunch? What are we doing for dinner? Hey, are we going bowling tonight? It was all these other things. It was like I said, it was just their friend that they were playing, and they were just having a great time. And it was, it just filled me up so much. I was just it was my heart was really overflowing just seeing that. And I had something scheduled the next day. I canceled it so I could go back and I experienced the exact same thing again. It wasn't just a one-off um, uh, example. So it was really, really impactful to me. And fast forward to today, I actually run the Greensboro Abilities Tennis Clinics. Actually, this over Labor Day, we took 24 athletes to New York City to participate in an on-court clinic on Arthur Ashe Stadium during the U.S. Open, right before the featured night match, which was super cool. And actually, just recently, I'm a board member of the Guilford Regional Tennis Association. We started tennis clinics for blind and low vision athletes. And I've been one of the lead instructors for that, which is very, very cool. We have some people that are, completely blind, and they use these large foam balls with either a bell or like bearings inside to help them locate the ball. And they get multiple bounces, and it's been really, really impactful for me, but also the community. There's been comments, this is the most I've active I've been in like 10 years. And it's been great feedback so far. So it's very, very cool. So through this, I fell in love with the community, and I was already a financial planner. So it only made sense as I love being with this community. I enjoy working with them. I should make this part of my, my firm. And so that's what I did. So I kind of went back and got that chartered special needs consultant designation to learn more. And that's been the focus of my practice is how can I help out this community as much as possible. And that really what brings us today for the top 10 tips for special needs planning. So, if you're a parent, caregiver, family member of someone with special needs, you have a good understanding of all the complexities, right? So, part of this presentation is to help you, clean up, organize that financial junk drawer, and kind of explore some tips to get you started on cleaning that up. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll have a little more clarity, some guidance, and actionable steps to take those first steps to really help clear that up. Before we get started, though, disclaimer. All right. So, information you're about to receive today is designed to be educational in nature. It's intended to provide you just with a general overview of special needs planning and some key areas to consider. However, it's absolutely crucial to understand that the presentation is not a substitute for personalized legal, tax, or financial planning. Because every individual we know is different, every family situation is different. So the strategies and tips we discuss here are just general guidelines. What works for one person may not work for another. So for specific advice tailored to your circumstances, please reach out to a qualified professional, right? This is going to be estate planning attorneys, special needs attorneys, financial advisors who specialize in special needs planning, and other relevant experts. So as I said, this presentation is a starting point, hopefully a way to become more informed and making sure when you reach out for this professional help, you're asking the right questions. So first off, we want to talk about, why is this important? Why is it important that we set up a special needs financial plan, or we're working towards that? And 5 key pillars to that. And first is financial security, right? It's making sure that not only that you are set up for yourself, but your loved one as well in the future. We want to make sure that what you do to set up the steps that you're taking are going to be impactful, but also if they're on any kind of government benefits, that they're not going to jeopardize those. So the first part is really that financial security for you as well as the next portion. I think of special needs financial planning as financial planning for 2 lifetimes, right? Because of medical advances, people are living longer, and oftentimes the people with special needs are outliving their parents and caretakers. So it's important to make sure we're planning well ahead, years and years in advance. Secondly, it's that quality of life. So it goes beyond just basic living expenses. We want to make sure that we're enhancing their overall quality of life, right? Making sure that they're going to have access to therapy, specialized education, recreational activities, right? All these are going to make a big difference in their happiness and development. Third, certainly protection and advocacy. Legal planning is essential, right? That's legal guardianship, power of attorney, making sure someone's there to look out for your loved one when you're no longer around, right? Especially important for decision making when they might not be able to advocate for themselves. Fourth is continuity of care, right? So we're looking at detailed medical, educational, personal preferences and making sure that they have consistent support throughout their lifetime. So if you or their caregiver are no longer able to provide those services, someone's able to step in and basically hit the ground running, being able to just continue and making sure that your loved one isn't impacted negatively. And finally, when we have all this put together, it gives you peace of mind, right? Knowing that after you're gone, they're going to be cared for. You don't have to worry about, are they going to be able to, are they still going to go to tennis or other social activities, right? Who's going to be out there looking for them? You have that plan set up. And this slide kind of just reiterates what we just was covered, a little bit more detail, what the planning includes. So we mentioned legal planning. Part of that is protecting the assets and ensuring that there's someone in place to make decisions when needed. So this could be setting up special needs trust to safeguard those assets without impacting government benefits, establishing guardianship or conservatorship to make sure there's a designated person to help make decisions for the individual. Also could be like healthcare power of attorney of those types of things to make sure that's a big thing when they turn 18, you no longer have access to their health records or to their doctors. So it's important that you have that established so you're still going to help them along the way. So financial planning. So it's financial planning is all inclusive, going from budgeting all the way to estate planning. It involves all of that. So Again, looking at what type of income and making sure that any government benefits are protected, and making sure that the assets that you build, um, they're going to be managed for your lifetime as well as your loved one's lifetime. It's about creating that financial safety net for today as well as well long into the future. The life care planning, it's about assessing and planning for long-term medical, housing, personal care needs, right? So we mentioned kind of the social aspect. This is more kind of the hardcore needs type of things. So care coordination, establishing a team of professionals, caregivers to make sure that the comprehensive support is there. It's really just about thinking ahead and again, continuity of care. So part of that is your family and support network, right? So we want to engage family members in the planning, decision-making processes. It's going to help build that broader network, um, bringing in a community of friends, the professionals, and organizations like the ECAC that can help provide that ongoing support, right? We've all heard the saying, it takes a village, and it really does. Education and employment are also key components. So leveraging programs while they're in school, like IEPs, 504 plans. Then as the transition to adulthood, exploring vocational training and other employment opportunities when available to help them reach their full potential. And then finally, there's the communication and decision making. So incorporating your loved one's preferences, goals, and abilities in all planning stages, making sure that they have a voice. It also involves documenting advanced directives such as healthcare and end of life wishes. It's really about that person centered planning and, again, making sure that their voice is heard. So, all of these elements help create that robust and effective plan that'll help address the diverse needs of a person with special needs. And the tips today are really aligned with those. So I've broken down the tips into three different categories. The first three tips are the easier tips. It's stuff that you can work on immediately. Uh, it may take some time to get through it, but you can certainly start it right away. You shouldn't need a lot of extra help or research on these types of things. And the very first thing is review beneficiary designations. So this is a very simple thing of just looking through um, all of your accounts and to make sure that your assets, when you pass, are going to go where you intend them to. It's making sure that the benefits really are there for your loved one and with special needs. So reason we're doing that is, again, to protect those benefits. So one of the most common issues that we run into is your loved one is somebody's left them as a beneficiary. So they've inherited assets. So if they are on any kind of SSI, Medicaid, it could impact those. And so it's very, very important that your loved one is not the direct beneficiary of any account. Ideally, it's you're going to have a special needs trust set up. We'll get into that later, but that's where we want those assets to go because special needs trust that avoids any kind of impact to those government benefits. And when we do have that special needs trust, you want to make sure that it's designated properly as your beneficiary. So making sure that any funds you leave are only being a supplemental help and so it doesn't jeopardize those government benefits. Um, Next is accurate distribution. So making reviewing the beneficiaries ensures that your assets go to the intended beneficiaries as you wish, not according to default rules or outdated documents. So a really good example is the per stirpes. So per stirpes, I think it typically means it's by the branch. So if you have a retirement account and you have per stirpes, normally what that will do, it's going to go equally to your children. If something were to happen to if you have multiple children, something were to happen to one of those children, it would then pass what was supposed to go to them would pass to their children. Where it gets difficult is if you set it up today, you don't know what their children are going to be like, right? If they're going to have a special needs child. If that happens, the per stirpes is then going to leave assets to them. again, impacting the any kind of government benefits that they may be on. So it's important that we're looking through those and thinking through all the way down on those. Certainly, life happens, changes occur. So events like births, deaths, divorce, or even changes in your financial situation, all of those necessitate updates to your beneficiary designations. So don't assume what you had set up years ago is correct today. So big events, that's when we want to review it. Um, Other times, just making sure if you don't have big events, just the regular checkups, anyways. So designations should be reviewed at least every 3 to 5 years, or as I mentioned, after any life event. Um, Simple step, just a few minutes that can prevent a lot of potential problems down the road. And finally, coordination. So your beneficiary designations must align with your overall estate plan, including your will and any trusts you have set up. You want to make sure everything works together seamlessly to avoid any prolonged estate settlements, as well as, again, protecting those government benefits. And best thing on this, it's crucial, is strongly recommend you consult with a qualified estate planning or special needs planner. They can help ensure that the designations align with your family's needs and, most importantly, protect your loved one's future. So it's not something you want to guess at. Get the professional advice um, when you do have those special needs trusts and other areas, things like that. Number two, create a letter of intent. And this is one of the handouts that you'll get afterwards. It's often overlooked, but it is incredibly valuable to your loved one's future. Um, Simple to start, but it's going to take some time to get all the way through it. So the letter of intent, it provides guidance for anyone who will be caring for your loved one in the future. Think of it as the roadmap for future caregivers. So it could be family members, future guardians, professional caregivers. It's your opportunity to share essential information that might not be captured in legal documents. It helps them understand your loved one's unique needs, preferences, routines, as well as their history. It's a way to ensure that the care they receive is consistent with your wishes and what you know works best. So the key components, well, typically includes things like personal information, daily routines, medical care details, education and employment information, living arrangements, social and recreational activities, as well as religious and cultural preferences. It's really that comprehensive overview of your loved one's life. It's also important to remember that a letter of intent isn't a one and done document. So this is going to be a common thing, is review regularly. So regular reviews are essential. So you want to review it, update it periodically to ensure it reflects current needs and circumstances. Again, life changes, so we want to make sure that we're keeping up with that to keep it current. Best practices, what I've heard a lot of people do is, like on the person's birthday, they'll often update it with any new changes. Once a year, they know that date, so that's when they're going to just spend a few minutes updating it. And finally, communication is key. It's not something you write and hide in that junk drawer. You want to share this with all relevant parties, right? Including family members, caregivers, and legal representatives. Make sure everyone who needs to know this information has access to it. Another thing you're going to get today is a free template from the ARC. It kind of gives you, it's a fillable PDF where you're just entering the information. It gives you the topics, and you can just enter it in pretty simply. So creating it's an act of foresight. It's really thinking about going forward. It's ensuring your loved ones' needs and preferences are known and respected, um, even when you're no longer there to advocate for them. So and the final thing is, by having that, it's giving you that peace of mind. The third easier step is to talk to family. So open and honest communication with your family is crucial for effective special needs planning. So first and foremost, talking to your family fosters understanding and support. Sharing information about their needs and your planning efforts helps create the empathy. It's going to reduce misunderstandings and it's going to build a stronger support system. It gets everyone on the same page. It also facilitates care coordination. When everyone is informed on the individual's needs, the routines, and any changes, it prevents confusion and ensures that consistent care. It's also going to build stronger relationships. Right? Honest communication, it fosters trust and deeper connections among family members. It's that chance to kind of strengthen those bonds and make sure you're creating a united front. It's also important to remember the aspect of empowerment and inclusion. So, open communication promotes the individual's inclusion within the family and making sure that they have a voice and that their needs and preference are heard. Their voice matters, and these family discussions, it gives them that platform. Oftentimes, you're going to hear of things that, like their caregivers, something comes out that they had no idea that was interested to them. I've heard a couple times it's thing that came up when the person with special needs talked. It was, yeah, I want to get an apartment with one of my friends. Caregivers had no idea that was something that they would like to do, and it kind of changed how they were planning going forward. So making sure that they have their own voice is very, very important. Um, Future planning, huge part of this. So talking to your family, it helps facilitate those discussions about long-term care, financial planning, and the individual's future. It helps prepare everyone and understand their roles. You might get some people that you weren't expecting to step up, and they do. And some people that you were thinking don't. Having that conversation, that it's what's going to be put in place. And it also helps prevent burnout, right? Sharing responsibilities, openly discussing the challenges can help prevent caregiver burnout, right? You don't have to do this on your own. So many resources and people are always willing to help. And finally, it avoids misconceptions. So it addresses potential miscommunications, misconceptions, assumptions about the individual's abilities or limitations. We've seen that all the time. And so it's a chance to educate and clarify people of the possibilities. So it's important to build that strong, informed, supportive family network that truly can make a difference in your loved one's life. Next set of tips is a little bit more of a time commitment, right? So these next four, you can certainly start them, but you're generally going to have to take a little bit more time to get this done. And the first one of these is secure your own finances, right? So we're going to get into the why. This is a lot of what I do is making sure that you're set up for your lifetime so that your loved one's lifetime is going to be protected as well. But it starts with you. And so the first thing is what we're talking about is that long-term caregiving, right? As a parent or caregiver, you're often your child's primary support system. So your financial health ensures that you can provide consistent care throughout their life, even when you're not there. But if you're financially stressed, it's going to impact your ability to provide the best care. As they say when you're on an airplane, right? You're going to put your oxygen mask on first. Take care of yourself first, and then you'll see that financially, take care of yourself financially first, so then you'll be in a better position to take care of your loved one beyond your lifetime. Second, unexpected events happen. So part of the financial planning is creating a financial safety net. It protects you against job loss, medical expenses, or other unforeseen circumstances that could really impact you and the ability to care for your child. So life happens, and it's important to be prepared financially with that safety net to give you that buffer. We also want to avoid creating a future responsibility. So if you're secure in your finances and you have a plan going forward, it's going to prevent your child or other family members from the financial responsibility for your care in the future. We don't want to shift your care onto them later. We want to make sure that there's a plan in place that you'll be taken care of. You're also, what part of the planning is, you're trying to account for all scenarios. So the financial stability gives you that greater potential to be able to move through the worst case scenarios. And that's why we're creating that comprehensive plan. It's addressing both your needs, as well as your child's ongoing needs. Because we're not looking at just today, it's about that long-term security and trying to make sure that we're able to adapt if as things come up. Provides peace of mind, right? Knowing your finances are in order, it reduces stress and allows you to focus on the present and your child's well-being. You can't effectively plan for your loved one if you're constantly worried about your own financial situation. And finally, your financial security provides the foundation for their future. Even after you're no longer able to provide direct care, it's the foundation, it's the groundwork for their long-term support and stability. So I don't want you to look at this as your financial well-being is not a luxury. It's a critical component of special needs planning, making sure that you are secure so that their future is secure. So how do we do that? So this is really just the steps of financial planning of the areas that we're covering. Um, First, it's creating just a realistic budget. So it's the foundation of any financial plan. We're tracking income as well as expenses. We prioritize essential needs, identify areas where we can save. Right, the budget's going to give you a clear picture of where your money's going, and it's going to help you make those informed decisions. Next is the emergency fund. That's the safety net. I Right. The typically the it's you want to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That's really changing, and it's getting more to 6 months to a year anymore. It's going to provide a buffer for unexpected events like job loss, medical bills, or home repairs. As I said, this is your financial safety net. Just because with a job market, it seems like it's taking longer and longer to get jobs. Certainly, resources are being minimized. So having a little bit more, right, 6 months to a year of that safety net should help out. Insurance is very important, and it's not just about health insurance, which is key, but we're also talking about life and disability insurance. So, health insurance, trying to make sure we have adequate coverage for yourself and your family. So, health issues can arise, and we want to try to be as prepared as possible. Life insurance protects your child's future by providing financial support if you're no longer able to. This is especially crucial in special needs planning. Depending on, you can either have there's whole life, which is oftentimes what will be held in a special needs trust for when you're passed. Then that's going to fund all their future bills and such, or just the term life insurance for kind of the in between time. That leads to retirement planning. We want to make sure we're saving consistently for your retirement. So that's what being aware of your 401k, IRAs, or other retirement accounts. Um, Again, your security is part of your child's security. And estate planning, touched on a little bit, but estate planning that's going to include wills, trusts, guardianship, power of attorney, advanced medical directives, as well as those beneficiary designations. Wills and trusts, that's going to make sure that assets are distributed according to your wishes. Guardianship, it's going to designate a guardian if you're not able to anymore. Power of attorney gives someone you trust the authority to handle your financial and legal affairs if you become incapacitated. Those advanced medical directives, those are documents that specify your wishes regarding medical treatment, ensuring healthcare decisions are respected if you're unable to make them yourself. This often it will include a living will as well as healthcare power of attorney. And we already touched on beneficiary designations, but again, that's an important piece of that. And finally is that regular review. Review your financial plan annually or after any significant life changes. It's not a set it and forget it thing. It requires ongoing attention and adjustments. Um, the plan is set up. Unfortunately it's based on what today is, but it's set up in such a way that you can make adjustments to the plan based on changing life situations or really government financial situations. It can easily make those changes. Uh, But having that in place, it's going to help with your well-being as well as your child's long-term security. Next step is to make sure you're understanding government benefits. So taking advantage of the benefits that they're eligible for and entitled to. So really this slide could be its own, couple hour presentation. But we're just going to keep it at a high level and just know that understanding the benefits, it's a critical piece and it can make a big difference. Broken up into a couple different types. So you have means tested public benefits. These are programs where eligibility is based on financial need. Um, One program that, for whatever reason, isn't on here is SNAP. Certainly very much in the news right now. But so supplemental security income, that's going to be provide financial assistance to individuals with disabilities who have limited income and resources. Uh, SSI is really meant for basic needs, right? That's typically made for housing and food. That's what that's meant for. Also, Medicaid, that's going to the health insurance coverage to eligible low income individuals and families, but also including those with disabilities. The entitled public benefits, these are programs where eligibility is just based upon meeting certain criteria, it doesn't factor in financial need. So generally, the key categories here is Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI. That provides benefits to individuals who have worked and paid Social Security taxes and who have a qualifying disability. And Medicare, federal health insurance program, primarily for people age 65 and older, but it also covers certain younger people with disabilities. You also hear another related to SSDI is if you have a child with disability and you're already on Social Security, they can get a part of those benefits, up to 50%, depending on who else is also getting a piece of those benefits. And certainly there are other benefit programs to be aware of. Section 8, that's the housing assistance to low-income families. Um, Also works with elderly and people with disabilities. Veterans benefits, there's a whole other category of lots of different things that you may qualify for if you or your family member is a veteran. Definitely good to check with the Department of Veteran Affairs for that to see what is available. But understanding the different types of benefits that you may be eligible for, it's going to help you navigate the system and again advocate for your loved one to make sure that they're getting what they're entitled to help them live their best life. Tip 6 is open an Able account. Right? Doesn't take much to open the account, but it's stuffy. We want to do a little bit more research and making sure that we fully understand what the Able account is and how we can fund it and such. So it's called the Achieve a Better Life Experience account. It's a tax advantage savings account designated specifically for individuals with disabilities. It's a way for them to save and invest money. And the key thing is it doesn't jeopardize eligibility for those needs-based public benefits, such as SSI and Medicaid. So first, to be eligible for an ABLE account, the individual must have been disabled prior to age 26, at least for 2 more months. Right. For the next 2 months, if the disability occurred after age 26, they're not eligible for an ABLE account. However, with the law change, January 1st, 2026, the ABLE age, which is the ABLE Age Adjustment Act, it allows the eligibility to include people who have a disability that occurred before age 46. So that's going to be a lot more people will be eligible for the ABLE account. Unfortunately, if you're over 46 and you don't already have one, you won't at this time. You will not be able to open an ABLE account. So next, you need to select the appropriate state ABLE plan. So ABLE accounts are federal, but they're administered by individual states. Uh, each state has slightly different rules and investment options, so you want to research and choose the plan that best fits your needs. Um, for instance, there are some states that you get a state deduction on taxes, but for North Carolina, there isn't one. However, you may qualify for the Savers Credit, which is also known as the Retirement Savings Contribution Credit. That provides a tax credit for eligible low and moderate taxpayers who contribute to retirement savings plans. And that will include ABLE accounts. In order to qualify for the credit, individuals must meet specific requirements regarding age, student status, dependent status, as well as your adjusted gross income. So something to consider. Uh, Contributions to the accounts must be in cash. So you're not able to transfer stocks, holdings, or it's not able to hold homes or other types of real estate. Uh, must be in cash, and it's limited to a total of $19,000 for the year, for this year as well as next year. The limit typically changes annually, but we saw it in writing. We confirmed that for 2026, it is $19,000. But the thing to keep in mind is this is going to be the total contribution from all sources, not just one person. So you can't. So often with like the giving, somebody can contribute 19,000. Someone else can contribute 19,000. In this case, it's 19,000 totals. Is one exception. There could be more if the person with special needs is employed. If that's the case, they can contribute more to that. So one of the great benefits of the ABLE account outside of protecting government benefits is the ability for growth. So any of the growth in the account accrues income tax free. So we're investing money in the account and investing it in stocks, bonds, and such. So we're hoping for growth in there. And any kind of investment gain, so the amount of money that it goes up from what you originally contributed to, when you take the money out, it's not taxed as long as it's a qualified disability expense. So if it grows, so typically when you're taking money out of a retirement account, if it's a traditional account or traditional 401k, you have to pay taxes on the amount that it grew. And it's typically income tax, regular income tax. But here it's more like the Roth. Anything you take out will be tax free as long as it's for that qualified disability expense or QDE. So the QDEs, those are set up very, very broadly. It was set up that way to make sure that most things are included in that. So some, but not the entire list, is education expenses, employment training and support, food and housing, that's important, transportation, assistive technology and personal support devices and services, healthcare, prevention and wellness, financial management and administrative services, expenses to manage the ABLE account oversight and monitoring, legal fees, as well as funeral and burial costs. As I said, it covers a wide range of expenses, and the main piece is how is it related to the disability. If it's somehow helping the person live a better life, it's generally covered. If it's an unpermitted distribution, two things that I can think of off the top of my head that will always be taxed as well as subject to a 10% penalty is this: if you're taking cash out and you're giving cash directly to the person, that's going to be a distribution that would be taxed as well as a 10% penalty. Other things and cash-like items fall in that same category. So gift cards, Visa cards, those would be unpermitted, or it would not be unqualified distribution. And that's where it's going to be taxed on the gains, and there's also going to be a 10% penalty. So it's very important when the money's coming out of there, it's going towards areas that are benefiting the person when living with a disability. So as I mentioned, the benefit of it doesn't impact government benefits. However, there is a limit to these accounts. there's two limits we can talk about. The first is if the balance gets over $100,000, your SSI eligibility is suspended until it's spent down below that $100,000. So you won't lose SSI entirely. Medicaid's still protected. You'll still have Medicaid, but the SSI benefits are going to be paused until you're able to get down below that threshold. So that $100,000 threshold. You can invest over $100,000. You can have over $100,000 in the ABLE account, but if you're on SSI, that's what's going to be impacted. If you're not on SSI, you can have more in that. There is a top limit. That's also state dependent. These are set up very similarly to 529 educational accounts. So those usually have an upper limit of around $500,000. So once you hit that $500,000, you would have to take money out as well. Um, so those are the two main thresholds on that. $100,000 for SSI eligibility, and then the overall account can't get over whatever the state limit is, typically around $500,000. One other thing is you can move your ABLE account from one plan to another, which is great because it provides flexibility. Is if you move or if you see a better plan in another state that would benefit you more. The key component of that, though, is you can only have one open at a time. So I can't have, a account open in North Carolina as well as Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, you get state discounts or state deductions. Wouldn't benefit me if I'm living in North Carolina, but I can't have both accounts open. Now, the kind of loophole on that is if you're transferring, that's the only time you can kind of have two open, but you're moving money from the one to the other account. So that's the main thing. Very, very powerful account. And ideally, the ideal situation is it's used in concert with a special needs trust. Each of them have some benefits as well as some things that aren't as great, but when they use together, it's a great opportunity. So both the ABLE account as well as the special needs trust, those are considered as supplemental, right? Shouldn't be the main thing that's paying for care for your loved one. Always supplemental. So
Would you mind speaking real quick to what happens when the owner of a ABLE account passes away?
yes. So when the owner of the ABLE account passes away, it's going to pass on to whatever beneficiaries that are set up on the account. So previously, and actually this just changed this summer, um, is there was a Medicare payback component to this. So if they passed away previously, uh, it, Medicare could Medicaid could actually ask for funds back that had been paid out on their behalf. But that's been eliminated now. So now whatever beneficiaries are set up on that account, those assets would then pass on to the beneficiary. Now, if it's somebody that does not have a disability, it's going to be treated as a similar to a traditional IRA. So when they take money out, it will be taxed at regular income. Um, so that's kind of the big piece of that. Thank you, Christy. So build a support team. So that strong support team that's going to significantly enhance your loved one's well-being and really eases the challenges of caregiving. So again, you're not alone. Building a team, bringing these people together to make sure you have the best possible support system. And to do that, we first need to look at the needs. So what kind of support does your loved one require? It could be medical, educational, therapeutic, social, financial, or legal. And think about the various professionals and individuals in your life that could help meet those needs. If you don't have those people in your life, certainly then you're reaching out to right estate planning attorneys, special needs planners, those types of things. We start from the core members, right? So generally speaking, your primary care physician, special education team at school, and kind of the family members that are most supportive and involved, right? People that are there day to day and can help make with this decision making. From that core, that's when we expand out, right? That's where we're looking at the specialists, therapists, support groups, community resources like the ECAC, right? Organizations can be really helpful, not only with with the services they provide, but also connecting you with other services. They're tremendous at that. Um, Also, key strategies around building that team: communication, organization, advocating, collaboration, certainly appreciation, um, setting boundaries. All of this goes to building trust, right? Organizing, making sure everyone knows their role. This is where the LOI comes in. It's very, very, very helpful in that. Uh, you're always been the main advocate, but it's also making sure that we have other people helping with the advocacy. Um, Appreciation is often something that sometimes can get overlooked, um, but it's an important part. And the last part was setting those boundaries, right? So we got to make sure is that you're taking care of yourself as well. So we want to make sure that there are boundaries set that protect you, your time, your energy. And again, we're reviewing this, right? Hopefully, you're when we're having this, you're having regular meetings, depending on your loved one situation. Could be annually, semi-annually, and it's time for the team to discuss progress and really the plan. Are there any adjustments? Uh, Important part about this is if somebody isn't pulling their weight, it's bring someone else on. Don't hesitate to make those changes. It's okay to find someone else. Um, there'll be a person there that's going to be effective and supportive. Very, very important on that. So building this team, it takes time and effort, but it's really, really pays off in the long run for you, for that peace of mind, as well as your loved one and entire family. That brings us to the last three tips. This is going to be the more involved, and really you're going to need assistance with these. Um, Generally, professional assistance on this. So that's long-term care, special needs trusts, and the life plan. So very complex areas that often involves significant legal and financial implications. So you want to make sure that you do have that professional team kind of looking over your shoulder and making sure that the decisions you're making align with the overall plan. So long-term care. So we're talking about here. So when we were looking at the financial planning, we were talking about your own long-term care. Well, this is the long-term care for your loved one with special needs. Planning for their entire future, making sure that their well-being and security are taken care of for the rest of their life. Uh, Several factors to consider. So first, if they're on public benefits, how do we preserve those? We want to make sure that those aren't impacted. Who's going to make the healthcare decisions? Who's going to make the financial decisions? What about housing? Where will he or she live? How will medical expenses be taken care of? How will they be paid? Who's going to advocate for them? Uh, who's going to take them to their job or school? So the need for support and care continues throughout their life. And so it's important that you plan for that long-term reality. Let me start with the lifelong needs, right? So one of the biggest challenges is you have a lot of resources while your child is in school, but once they're out of school, those kind of disappear. They vanish, and certainly one of those transition periods is when they turn 18. So when they turn 18, they're legally adult, and you lose the right to make decisions for them. So if your loved one has the capacity, you want to make sure that they have a supported decision-making agreement, healthcare directives, powers of attorney. If they have the capacity, to make the decisions, you need to, I mean, I'm sorry, if they don't have the capacity to make the decisions, you need to consider conservatorship or guardianship to make sure that they're protected and oversight. So if you haven't been through it, um, when my daughter turned 18, that very morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning, we got a notice from Walmart saying you no longer have access to their pharmacy or healthcare needs. So it's important to, when they turn 18, is to get those documents taken care of. We mentioned financial security, how it's paramount. Long-term care can be very expensive. So it's ongoing costs for medical care, housing, therapies, as well as other essential services. You want to make sure that there's essential funds um, and sufficient funds to cover those expenses for years and years to come. Come back to care continuity. Want to make sure that that consistent care is there, quality care, even when you're no longer there to oversee it. So having that plan in place and having trusted individuals ready to step in is key. And we mentioned a lot of the things that we're doing is to protect the benefits. I want to make sure that your planning efforts aren't inadvertently jeopardizing those benefits. So that's where setting up specific legal and those financial structures. Finally, respecting wishes. So that well thought out long-term care plan ensures that your loved one's care aligns with their desires and values. Uh, Gives everyone that peace of mind knowing that their needs are going to be met today as well as well into the future. So it's a complex process, um, really requires a lot of careful consideration and thought, but also professional guidance. It's going to make sure that you're taking those correct steps and not making a misstep that could cause problems later on. Special needs trust, big piece of the puzzle. And again, something that could be a very long presentation on its own. So it's a high level, and this is going to be another thing that you're going to get a handout for. You'll get some additional information on the special needs trust, but also how it compares to the ABLE accounts. So the special needs trust is a legal tool that allows you to set aside assets for a person with special needs without jeopardizing their eligibility for government benefits. It's considered its own entity, right? So it's not owned by the person. Um, Again, this is a supplement. It's treated as supplemental. There's a couple key purposes of it. Uh, so it avoids a direct inheritance, right? So now you have somewhere, if somebody wants to provide assets to your loved one, they have a place to put it where it's not going to impact those things. Again, supplemental support, so it's going to cover expenses beyond what government benefits provide. So think medical type therapies, education, recreation, as well as other quality of life enhancements. Um, because it's its own entity, there's three parts to it. There's the grantor, who is basically the person that is setting up the special needs trust. There is a trustee who manages the trust. They are a fiduciary, which means they are responsible for acting in the beneficiaries. That's the third person to this. They have to act in the beneficiary's best interest with all their decisions. It's not about what's good for them. It's what's best for that beneficiary. So that's going to involve, how are the funds are distributed. But in the trust, a lot of times it's dictated on things that need to be covered. And so that trustee is required to follow the trust terms as well as act in the best interest of the person. So the three people is the grantor who sets it up, the trustee who manages it, and then the beneficiary is the person that the trust is set up for. Now, you could have contingent beneficiaries. So once the person passes, the assets could pass on to someone else. But there's different ways on how the assets pass. And that's going to be the three different types of special needs trust is going to dictate of how that passes. So there's the three different are third party special needs trusts. Um, This one has a couple different names, but you can think of it as a first person special needs trust and a pooled trust. So the most common is a third party special needs trust, and it's the most flexible. So the money in the trust comes from anyone except the beneficiary. So parents, grandparents, or other family members. It's not the beneficiary's money, someone else's money. Anyone except the beneficiary can establish the account. So, same thing. Parents, grandparents, other family members can establish this. The advantage of the third party special needs trust is the distribution upon death of the beneficiary is going to then pass along to the contingent beneficiaries. And that's what the grantor who set up the account, that's what they set up. There's no requirement to pay back Medicaid. And that's the big differentiator between the first person special needs trust. You also hear it as a D4A or a self-settled special needs trust. So this trust, it's funded with the beneficiary's own funds. This is typically coming from those inheritances, a personal injury settlement, or other assets that they may have before the age of 65. So because it is their own funds, this can also be established by the individual, as well as parents, guardians, or the court system. The big difference here, other big difference beside whose money it is what happens to the money after death. So after death, there is a Medicaid payback provision. So the Medicaid agency must be reimbursed for any benefits that had been paid out, but any money remaining after that would then pass on to those remainder beneficiaries, whatever the grantor has set up. One other option is the pooled trust. So this also uses the disabled beneficiary's own funds, right? So inheritance, injury settlement, or other assets that they own. Uh, Similar to the first person, can be established by the individual, parent, guardian, grandparent, or the court. What's different here is a pooled trust is usually set up and run by a nonprofit trustee. It's usually set up through an organization, and they manage the pooled trust. So there is Medicaid payback with this, and there also could be payment back to the organization. It depends. The benefit of the pooled trust is the low cost to start it. When we look at the first person or third person trust, that's going to be created by an attorney. So you're going to be paying for their time. Rough, think $3,000 to $5,000 probably for one of those two accounts. Or the pooled trust, you're basically the money's passing along to this organization. If they can, the organization can keep, I believe, up to 50% of the assets once they pass. That's beyond the Medicaid. But any assets after that, after Medicaid, after the organization, would then pass on to the beneficiary. So a lot of times with the pooled trust, you might not have the assets to set up the first or third person, but this is going to be professionally managed by someone that's going to still help take care of your loved one, and it's still going to protect the government benefits. So each has goods and the good and bad to them. Um, so it's a matter of understanding which one's going to fit best for your situation. One other piece on this is that these are taxable accounts as well. So whereas the ABLE account was tax deferred and maybe tax free, depending on how the money is taken out, when money comes out of here, there could be taxes on the gains. So you put $5,000 in, it goes up to $10,000. You take $10,000 out, you would be paying taxes on that $5,000 gain. Because the trust is its own entity, you're paying it at the trust level, which is often it gets to the higher tax levels quicker than an individual tax. So that's kind of the downside. These could all be taxed. One other piece on this is because it's supplemental, unlike the ABLE account, which is also supplemental, funds out of the trust cannot be used for housing or food. Now, as I mentioned earlier, is those two work really well together. You can move money from the special needs trust to the ABLE account, and the ABLE account can then pay for housing and food. Silly, but it's the game we have to play. So that's how they work in concert to each other. Other thing is there's no limits on the special needs trust. You can have as much money in there as you want. Benefits don't cut off. There's not a loss of benefits at 100,000, and there's no upper limit of like the $500,000. Can be as big as it grows to. And the final one is life planning. So life planning, it's that comprehensive process that helps families and individuals with disabilities prepare for the future. Um, Involves legal, financial steps. It's a holistic approach to make sure that the well-being, quality of life, and independence um, is created at the greatest extent possible for your loved one. And really, you can just think of it as the summation of everything we went through today, right? So we had financial planning, making sure that you're taken care of so that you can make sure that your loved one's taken care of. Making sure you have those resources set up for continued care, utilizing special needs trust, ABLE accounts, coordinating those government benefits throughout. Legal planning, making sure their rights are protected and mechanisms in place for decision making when needed, right? So guardianship, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, um, and certainly setting up the trusts themselves. The care planning, identifying the types of care and support the individual need, including housing, healthcare, personal care, and support. The transition planning, right, for young adults, special needs, moving from school to adulthood, and then certainly that transition plan from when you're there when you're not around. What does that transition look like? And personal planning, making sure that they're living a fulfilled life, um, taking in consideration their goals in their life, their preferences, their aspirations, and making sure that you have things set up so that they are still involved. They're still involved with the social activities, the recreational activities, and they're involved with the community. It's this ongoing process that you want to begin as soon as possible. Again, you want to update it regularly, certainly as needs and circumstances change. We're doing that collaborative approach with our circles, uh, bringing in your family, friends, professionals, and making sure everyone's on the same page to really make sure that your loved one's taken care of, and again, they're living life to their fullest potential. So we've covered a lot of information today. And as we mentioned, it can seem overwhelming, and it's easy to just add to our financial junk drawer. But if we just take those small steps, pick one thing out of here and start that's that's going to get the ball rolling. Um, and it doesn't matter where you are in planning. So maybe you already have all this taken care of, or you've already have a special needs trust. Um, or if you haven't started at all, it's wherever you are in the process, you're not alone. There's lots and lots of people in the very, very same role as you, and that's where resources like the ECAC, they're out there to assist. They're there to help you. But the biggest thing is we have to make that first step. So there's saying in financial planning, when is the best time to start a financial plan? Well, ideally, 10, 20 years ago. But the second plus best time to start is today. Again, just take that first step. Uh, so that's everything I have today. So as Christy said, you'll get copies of the slides. I think there'll be a recording of this. You'll get a handout of comparing the special needs trust and the ABLE account. Um, you'll get the ARC template for the letter of intent, and also a separate handout for kind of going into more detail of the steps and things you want to cover in the letter of intent. So I think we're ready for questions if you have them.
Yes, we
All right.
are ready. Okay, let's see. So first one is, so this is not a legal doc. And when that question was posted, it's when you were talking about letter of intent.
Correct. Correct. Nothing is binding in there. Is not a legal document at all. It's just it's like I said, it's that roadmap um, manual for for your child or loved one to live their best life.
Okay.
There's no requirement for people to follow that, unfortunately. But then again, it's something you can start without having to pay all the extra fees of dealing with a lawyer.
Next question is there not a special Medicaid that could fall under entitlement, meaning individuals with disabilities may qualify regardless of income? Do you want to take that? Do you want me to take that?
Say that one more time, please.
So is there not a special Medicaid that could fall under entitlement, meaning an entitlement service, meaning individuals with disabilities may qualify regardless of income?
So I think that's where we're looking at the state programs, right? Is that where you're going to go with it, Christy?
So basically, all Medicaid, so Medicaid's a welfare program, all Medicaid, all versions of Medicaid, even waivers have some income and asset requirements, right? So the traditional Medicaid state plan, um, you have to apply and you have to have income and assets that are under that threshold. If you're talking about a waiver, like the innovations waiver, CAPC, those waivers still have asset and income requirements, but they just waive some traditional federal Medicaid requirements, including like if you're applying for a minor child. They won't look at the parent's income and assets, but they will always take the income and assets into consideration of the person with a disability. So the answer is no, there is no Medicaid that does not look at income and assets at all. They're always going to at least look at the income and assets of the person with the disability. So, and actually, Mike, I have a question for you that's kind of tied to that because it came into my inbox today. If there is a disabled child, whether they're a minor or not, and they begin receiving a death benefit from a parent, that can knock them out of Medicaid eligibility. But if they receive it as a child and then they get older and they're an adult, and they want to apply for Medicaid, is there a way to shield that death benefit payment from Medicaid's eyes
Yep.
in a
That's where
legitimate
the
way?
special, yeah, that's where the special needs trusts come in.
So, okay.
Um,
So can it get paid directly into the trust or does it have to hit a bank account first?
so if I think after the fact, it's not going to be able to, right? Because it's going to follow whatever the beneficiary is set up as. So if it is as the special needs child, it's going to go to them, but then they'll need to set up that first person special needs trust, right? That can handle and absorb those funds. If it's set up previously as a special needs trust, or the beneficiary is a special needs trust, they already have it set up, then it can be set up as a third party. And again, the difference between those, third party, no Medicaid payback, first party, Medicaid payback. So that's going to be the big difference. Um, I kind of
Okay.
wanted to go back to that previous question as well. So, and you touched on it a little bit, but I think that the main thing to consider is oftentimes, most of the time, is when the child's under 18, it's based upon the parent's income. But once they turn 18, that changes, right? So
Yes.
now, so they may qualify for SSI and Medicaid once they turn 18, depending on right other situations. So that's something to look at because at that point, right, considered adults and that they're their own.
Right. And yes, but they are gonna look at the income and assets of the person
Yes.
with the disability, which sounds like in some cases, like, what do you mean? But I have known families that, they receive a parent dies, they receive a death benefit, they receive an inheritance from a well-meaning relative. And those can knock
Yep.
people out of eligibility, even if they don't have like like a job, like a traditional job. So
Yep.
you just gotta be careful. And that's where that planning and creating your team and communicating with family members is so important.
Hmm. Yep.
Actually, guys, if you don't mind, I'm going to launch the poll real quick. This is just a super quick evaluation poll. I think there's 4 multiple choice questions. ECAC is largely funded by federal grants, and our funders require us to collect data on all of our activities. And now more than ever, this data is super important because we want to be able to continue to provide support and information and resources to families at no cost. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, how should ABLE accounts be titled? In trust, name, or individual?
No, it'll be in the individual's name. They'll be the owner. There's often a custodian of it, or a co-owner that can make the decisions on it. But it's in the individual's name. So it is it is their money. They can transact on it, but it doesn't count against the government benefits.
Okay, thank you. Next question is tip 7. So I don't know if you want to go back to that slide real quick. How is this linked to financial planning?
Um, well, this is more the special needs financial planning, right? Because this is the support team that's going to be there to help throughout beyond your lifetime. So as long as
Mhm.
when you're living, oftentimes you're spearheading it. A lot of the times you're the main caretaker. You're making sure everything's in line. But when you're not around, that's where this team's going to really come into play. But also when you are alive, they're there to support you, to help you along. So not necessarily for standard financial planning for yourself. This is the special needs financial planning where that team is going to be there to support you now as well as support your loved one in the future.
Who do you suggest to help with this process? And I believe that question was asked during the special needs trust slide.
So I think that's there, that was asked in one of the other sessions is, who do you talk to first? Do you
Mhm.
talk to a financial planner? Do you talk to a lawyer? Um, my feeling, and you can consider it biased, is I would talk to a financial planner first because they're gonna help you get everything in order. And one of the things that may come out of that is you should set up a special needs trust. You should go talk to an attorney. Um, most most financial planners, you get a like a free consultation, so that could be one of the things that you can talk to them about. Can't speak for lawyers. Lawyers, same thing. They're probably a little bit tighter about giving out information. Um, but that's my feeling is that's the financial planner, I think, looks very, very broadly, right? We're looking at everything in the person's life. Lawyers really focused on that one piece. Um, so I think starting with the financial planner gets that ball rolling of looking at everything, and then we're kind of in the center where if we need additional people brought in, we can kind of spearhead that. Hey, let's bring in a lawyer. Hey, what we should really talk to is a tax expert. Let's bring a CPA in, right? So talking to them, I think that helps. I think bigger picture first, as opposed to just starting with the special needs trust
And
or
all part of a
or a
team.
state planner. Correct.
Yeah. A thank you for taking time to answer these. You were very welcome. Next question is, where is a special needs trust housed? A bank, clerk of court? We drafted a special needs trust and have scheduled a consultation with an attorney, but I was just wondering where the special needs trust is based.
Great question. And this is one of the things. This is not just special needs trust. This a lot of people with the trust, they'll have it created, but they never fund it. That's the biggest piece. So it's generally held. I guess it's part of it's going to be where is it held, or what's in it. So special needs trust that can hit it, homes can be part of it, right? That can be listed. If there's investments, it's going to be held at a one of the investment firms, right? So any big, so Vanguard, Fidelity, any of the big ones, you'll have a trust account set up, and it'll be titled as a special needs trust. So that's where the investments would be held for that. But in the trust document itself, right, if it's going to hold homes or vehicles and such, that's not shown at the investment company. So that's just more in the document that's filed with yourself and with the court. Um, Hopefully that was a little bit clear. But the biggest thing with that is making sure the assets are actually moved into the trust. Oftentimes they'll have a trust and nothing's in it. For special needs trust, that might be the case. If uh, um, there's life insurance that's going to fund it, then it wouldn't be funded with anything, right? It's once that life insurance pays out, that's what's going to fund the special needs trust moving forward. But if there's assets now, we got to make sure that it is moved into there, and that's what's going to help you make sure that they do stay qualified for benefits.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, can you convert a UTMA account to an ABLE account?
I don't think it's necessarily converting. I think you're basically paying it out. So you're not able to. So the ABLE account has to be funded with cash. So even if you have investments in a UTMA or UGMA, you can't transfer those investments directly to that. So that's where you have to sell it out. So you're not necessarily transferring, you're actually basically selling it out and then funding the ABLE account with that. Again, you're limited to 19,000. Now, there are benefits is like if you have a 529, you can move money from a 529 to the ABLE account. Once again, you're limited though. So there's no taxes or anything. That it's a tax-free transfer, but you're limited to the $19,000 per year. So that's another account that you can move cash between.
Okay, thank you. Are there any potential negatives of setting up an ABLE account that parents should be aware of?
I mean, there's going to be some maintenance fees to it, right? It's not a, and unfortunately it's not a no cost account, but it's not anything that's great, right? So it's the trust, you're going to most likely pay thousands of dollars to open that up. That's not going to be the case. Usually the cost to maintain the ABLE account is going to come out of the assets that are in there, and it's I can't tell you what the amount is, but it's pennies on the dollar that's in there. Maybe a $50 charge per year, something like that. Vastly different than the special needs trust. Um, Part of it is making sure you understand what is the purpose for. Is this a long term or is this a short term investment? So probably the it's not necessarily negative. It's making sure you understand the investment piece of it if it's meant for investment. So if it's really just to pay, hey, we're going to fund this every year to pay for expenses throughout the year, basically you're putting it in cash. You don't want to invest that to put it at risk. But if it's something that you're looking for, longer term, using it more than 5 years out, not necessarily for today, then you're looking at the investments and making sure that you're comfortable with the investments, also knowing of those limits to the account.
Thank you, Mike. We have one more question that's in the chat. With a third-party special needs trust, how do you fund it with the money you want to leave your child? Do you make the trust the beneficiary, even the house they may inherit?
Yes, so everything should be the trust. You do not want to put their name as anything. It should always be the trust, and that's important that it's titled properly. That's where the estate attorney comes in to make sure, hey, how should we? So if my life insurance plan or my retirement plan, how should this beneficiary be listed? So it's important pieces, and it's not going to. You do not want it to be your individual at all, because that's where now if they're not on government benefits. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not that challenging. Um, but the benefit of the trust is that this trust was set up to provide and kind of the rules in there to make sure the money is used properly. if it's just left to them and they inherit it in just a regular account, you don't have those guardrails. So the benefit of the trust is you have that trustee who's obligated to act in the best interests. So that's the benefit of making sure that you're leaving it as the trust and not to the individual. So as I said, I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's depending on the life insurance. So if you have a term insurance policy, that's usually probably hard to get those past 60 or without paying an arm and a leg. But oftentimes what you'll see is there'll be whole life insurance, which is your entire life that you're paying. That's often used as a funding mechanism for the special needs trusts.
Thank you, Mike. Great questions, everyone. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. All right, last chance to throw another question in the Q&A. I'll give it another couple seconds. Otherwise, I just want to share that I will send a link to the recording, a copy of Mike's slides, the handouts, and some other materials that he's mentioned. There'll be links in the follow-up email that will go out this afternoon to everyone who registered. So we don't have, yep, and there's Mike's contact information as well. Oh, I think we got another question. Let me look. A thank you, which is awesome. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
And for me, I always think of questions immediately after we close. So if you do, feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any questions. That's why I put my information back up there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate your partnership and helping get this complicated information out to families. It can seem like such a huge mountain to climb, but you're right. If we break it down into bite-sized things and we do what we can when we can, it makes it seem a little bit more manageable. So thank you very
Yep.
much.
You're welcome. Happy to help.
All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.